Well, it's time to give something else credit when credit is due. And that is going to be the WebBot report. The one labeled IDR 2015 September. Page 8. This is interesting. And I'm going to tell you now, when I do these WebBot reports, I always tell you, sometimes the dates are wrong, sometimes the interpretation's wrong, sometimes part of it's spot on, sometimes it's a miss, etc. It's based off of interpretation of computer provided data by a human who's, Cliff, who's doing the interpretation. I'm going to take you back to the Wall Street protests. Remember that? Occupy Wall Street? We had a WebBot report come out and say that we would have people trapped in these like orange nets and this netting. People would be trapped and they wouldn't be able to escape, to do with the Occupy Wall Street movement. And in that same line of data was saying there appears to be beheadings, maybe accidental or something, but it's at the same time frame as this. We think it's related to the Wall Street, Occupy Wall Street movement. So, interestingly enough, there's a famous picture of these protesters, women, I believe all three of them were women, if I remember correctly, and they had those little fluorescent orange netting to keep, public from going somewhere, and they wrapped these women up in it essentially, and then like pepper sprayed them. They couldn't escape. And by the way, I recently heard, I think, if I read it right, if this is the same story, the lawsuit went in their favor. They won, naturally. But it was called out in the WebBot report about this capturing, this netting, and whatever. And it happened exactly as the WebBot said. However, what about the beheadings? There was beheadings attached to that, accidental or whatever they were, not sure, but it was in the data. And I'm going to use this as a perfect example to show you how the WebBot does what it does, or why, how it can get things mixed up sometimes, even though it's got both, right? It's got both stories that happened. The beheadings, at the same time this was going on, the Occupy Wall Street movement, there was a bunch, several high profile, made the news quite a bit, I should say, beheadings that were taking place in Mexico. I think the cartels were cleaning house. Women were beheaded, people who blew the whistle on them or something, ratted them out. I don't remember all of it, but that happened at the same time. So we had the beheadings language and we had Occupy Wall Street. So matter of fact, let me just add this real quickly. Give me 1 second. Let me blow this up a bit for you. And I'm going to read you. Again, this is September of 2015 report. Immediacy Data Report, IDR. Page 8. First paragraph we're going to cover right here. There are new immediacy data sets going to the idea of the Terra expansion causing a separation between two halves of a bridge that carries major road traffic into a central water-ringed metropolis. This will likely not be properly explained. However, the visibility of these sets point towards mainstream media and alternative media coverage of the sagging separation between the two halves of a city. Now, I want to, after giving you that previous example of Occupy Wall Street, it doesn't get everything perfect. Different pieces of news happening at the same time seem like sometimes they're together, but yet they're not, like the beheadings and the Occupy thing and the nets. He saw the nets, people being trapped. He thought it'd be some kind of accidental beheading because of the netting, etc. It made perfect sense. It was a great interpretation, but that's not how it happened. But he still had both pieces. Now, as he said here, this will likely not be properly explained. So his interpretation will likely not be properly explained. but it is in the immediacy data sets, which means very near future. I want to take your attention, if I may, to an interesting news story, which has actually made it, as it said, alternative media and mainstream media have run with this story. Update. Greyston temporary bridge collapses onto M1. It's like a interstate. Very busy interstate, South Africa, Johannesburg. 2 people are confirmed dead, 17 injured after a temporary bridge, blah, 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 collapsed. Here's a picture there. Got some more pictures here. And a couple shots there. Now I'm just going to ask you, what are the chances that a WebBot report would come out talking about a bridge collapsing? It will make mainstream and alternative media news, and that the rest of his story or interpretation is likely not to be spot on. Likely to be not right is what he said. Right? Those exact words. This will likely not be properly explained. So maybe he didn't have enough data. He didn't have whatever. I don't know his methods and what he looks at or what makes him want to say something like that. But it was enough to make him say it. So I'm just going to ask you, what are the chances that a report from the WebBot report comes out in September, talks about a bridge collapsing, carries major road traffic? Now, granted, this particular bridge didn't carry major traffic, but the bridge that this bridge collapsed onto, or the roadway, the interstate highway that this bridge collapsed onto, thus stopping traffic, was a very major traffic artery, if you will, of that area. Major road with tons of traffic. So here's a prime example of why the web, or how the WebBot can be right, wrong, not quite perfect, but gives you enough information, right? Because as I always said, just listen to what it's telling you is going to happen. Basically, forget the little date or time or the whole gist of it. Just what is the story, and just hang on to it and remember it, so that in the near future, or if it's long-term data, longer term for you, you'll remember. Oh yeah, the WebBot said something about that. Now I can kind of expect this. So key thing here. Expect, all right, let's shorten this down. Expect a bridge collapse that'll make mainstream news, alternative news in the near future. Immediacy data says so, which means it's going to be happening very soon. And you mean to tell me something that happens in South Africa, because this isn't, this doesn't say this is specifically to the state of Florida, the data is coming. No. It would be enough to be in the news and the alternative news, mainstream and alternative. And I saw the UK, what is this one? The UK, The Guardian. Okay? The Guardian is running the story too. It's a big media outlet in the UK. This is a prime reason why old JSNP4 continues to read and take in the information out of these reports. Yes, Occupy Wall Street didn't happen like he said. He thought it would because of his interpretation. Being what it is, it's an interpretation. He's only as good as what he can read and again interpret into making sense for the rest of us to understand. There were beheadings? Check. There was the Wall Street movement where people were caught in nets? Oh my God, check. They got pepper sprayed and rounded up and they sued and they won. Big story. WebBot called it. Thought that the beheadings would be related since they were together in that data set or whatever. And okay, nets, trapping people, can't get out, someone loses their neck, perfect. I would have made the same conclusion in my own interpretation, had I saw whatever he saw. I'm positive. But this is why I love the WebBot report. How in the hell can this damn computer program send out little spiders across the internet to pull in all this data with specific keyword types of emotional sum values that are important to even bring back, because if it's not at a certain level, it doesn't even bring that data back. How can it find this kind of stuff? Make a claim like this. And again, it's not perfect. But if you say if I would have just came out on my YouTube channel and said, guys, there's going to be a noticeable bridge collapse in the very near future, it'll make mainstream news and alternative media. That's all I can tell you. That's all I know. It's all I got in my psychic bozo-ness told me last night in my dream. And then that story broke. You guys would be flipping out. Oh my God, dude! Are you psychic? Did you call it, dude? How'd you know that? Oh my... But when computer programs like Cliff High's Webbot gets it, nobody freaks out. Oh my God! But it is still fascinating as hell to see that. Worthy of me doing a video to give Webbot and Cliff High credit. Because what else has the Webbot reports talked about? You want to know something interesting? While I'm talking about Webbot stuff. Give me a second. I'm going to find it right now. I forget if it was on Zero Hedge or Silver Doctors. I want to see. I think it was Silver Doctors. And this is a quick one. To do with the Webbot report, another forecast from a long time ago, and I've mentioned this one quite a while ago. Actually, I take it back. It wasn't. It was my YouTube subscription. Give me a second. I'm not gonna like play the video or nothing, but I'll read you the headline of the my subscription, which it's Russia Today. The news channel is simply my subscription. And where are my subscriptions? How do I get to my subscriptions? Hang on. What the hell? Here we go. Act like I never used YouTube before. All right, scroll down. Russia Today. Keep going. Russia Today. Not that one. It was a headline about Iran's secret underground something, tunnels. Where the hell is it at? Let me scroll down here. I just saw it today. Can't find it now. But it had a picture, and the video it showed, you could drive vehicles in this big, underground tunnel in Iran. It was about a 2-minute video clip on Russia Today. And it talked about, this isn't, it said something like, this isn't the only secret, or this is, interesting. Look how big this place is, but this isn't the only one, or something like that. And the second I saw that headline, I said, man, this is bringing back an old Webbot memory that's not pretty if it goes down how the Webbot thought it goes down. And I'll tell you how it goes, because the news story was about an underground facility of Iran's. First glimpse into one of these things. Oh, wow. We didn't know that was there. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Webbot report long ago said that from the data that it had at the time, it looks like Israel, maybe Israel plus U.S. ally, or just Israel, but definitely Israel, offensively attacks what appears to be Iran, because they want to go after the nuclear facilities and this and that. And the defensive force that Israel is met with, and whatever the attacking force is with Israel, whether that's us or nobody or whoever, we're like, whoa, we didn't expect that as a defensive response. Holy crap. However, some of those missiles from the airstrike hit their target. According to the Webbot report, if this goes down, and it said it was going to go down, and it goes down into these, bunker buster type missile, gets to its target, hits an underground facility, and that underground facility happened to be making uranium or wherever they make their fuel, for their peaceful nuclear reactors, as they say. Whether that's true or not is not the point of this discussion. I'm not going to get into that discussion right here. The point is, oops, we didn't know that was down there. We didn't know it'd be that bad. We didn't know, radioactive stuff is now going to come out of the ground and spew around this whole area. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, that when that happens, the rest of the countries in that area unleash hell on Israel for doing such a thing. I think, if my memory serves me right. So I'm reading that headline of secret underground facility shown for the first time in Iran. Now Israel's going to say, you see? They've got it. We need to get them. We need to attack them. They've got it. They just posted on the news. You can hear them on the phone with Obama. Come on. Mosquito, get on out of here. Got him. Got that sucker. I could just see it. It just hit me immediately when I saw that headline. Oh, come on. Underground facility. Iranian. Nobody seen it before. Israel's going to probably use that as, see? If they've got this underground facility, what else do they got? They're probably making super powerful nuclear weapons. Making the super fuel. Not the little, whatever grade fuel for peaceful use. We got to go get them. You can see it. You can just smell it. So I just wanted to share that with you, mainly the bridge story. But since I read that headline today, I said, I may want to include that, just so you can kind of see where things are going. And I want to add one more thing. This is not related to Webbot, but is related to John Teeter. And this particular piece I'm going to read you. You just got to sit back and say, man, what the hell's up with this guy, supposed time traveler? This was posted February 23rd, 2012, someone else's commentary from their website. And he posts some of what John Teeter said to look for in the future. Even though times appear to have come and gone, certain events have seemed to come and gone, nothing happened. There's some stuff that's like eerily like, well, but that did happen, and that did too. So he says, devastating nuclear war. A world war in 2015 killed nearly 3 billion people, according to John Teeter. Now, naturally, we got about 3 months left, roughly. 2.5, 3 months. And you might say the world war killing 3 billion people is not going to happen. However, it's a little tiny bit unnerving to see what's happening in the Middle East right this second, to say the least. With Russia going after ISIS, China telling the U.S. leave us alone. We built these man-made islands in the South China Sea. Get the hell out of here. I just read again today. They're telling us if you send something over here, we will respond to it. Leave us alone. Made me think. Old John Teeter had something to say about that, as a matter of fact. So that's the first thing he mentioned. Number 2. Deception leading to the Iraq war. He says, none of the things I have said will be a surprise. They were set in motion 10, 20, even 30 years ago. Are you really surprised to find out that Iraq has nukes now? Or is that just BS to whip everyone up into accepting the next war? Now, he said this in the year 2000. And he allegedly left in very early 2001, before 9/11, before we instantly sidetracked the whole 9/11 thing and went straight into Iraq to go handle that. How did that tie in? We don't know. But for him to say that, you gotta say, well, that's odd. Okay. Number 3, the 2008 Olympics will be canceled, he said. Now, he says, as a result of the many conflicts, no, there were no official Olympics after 2004. And this guy's comment was, well, of course, Teeter didn't always hit the mark. The 2008 Olympics, which were ultimately held in Beijing, China, still happened. However, do you remember how close they came to not happening? During the lead up to the Olympics, the Tibetan protests spread throughout China provinces with calls for independence and the return of the Dalai Lama. Many wondered if this would interfere with the Olympics, leading to a boycott. So no, it didn't happen, but again, there was, that's his comment. Number 4, the hidden functions of the IBM 5100. So Teeter's comment was, you mean other than the mad cow pandemic, the breakthroughs in high energy physics, and the unknown functions of the 5100? And naturally, he says, we've already talked about his connections to the IBM 5100. It's true that at the time of this posting, the hidden functionality of the IBM 5100 was unknown to the average person, especially around 2000, 2001. No one knew this obscure detail really until later on it came out from an IBM engineer. Yes, that's actually true, and that's kind of like a trade secret from back in the day. Nobody knows that. We never published it. So he says, on the other hand, his statement about the mad cow disease pandemic and breakthrough in high energy physics are somewhat murkier. There was a mild pandemic regarding mad cow, which is CJD, the human form of it. However, this was quite a few years ago and nothing I'd call a pandemic. The unfortunate thing, however, is that it has a potential incubation period of decades, meaning if there was a massive spread of the illness that occurred 10 or even 20 years ago, we still wouldn't know about it potentially. As for high energy physics, new breakthroughs at CERN, which is almost its own character in the John Titor saga, may lead to some extraordinary outcomes. More specifically, John Titor said, some very interesting things will be going on at CERN in the near future. And he talked more than just that. But sure enough, the Higgs boson, whether or not anything comes of this, he says, is too early to tell, this guy here. But the forward march for progress continues. And once again, as Titor said, they will find some interesting particles when they start using the Large Hadron Collider. And they did. And they discovered what they called the God particle, and it's this Higgs boson. So, then he asks somebody a question. Teeter does, and he says, "Do you care to share with me how you solved the overheating problem on your space plane?" And no one really answered. No one knows what he was talking about. However, in 2003, after Teeter left, long after, we had the Columbia Space Shuttle incident, where it went up and lost some little paneling things and came down and burned up, overheated in the sky, and blew to pieces. Which, by the way, Webbot forecasted a ship breaking apart over a certain latitude or longitude line, and they thought it was ocean because the word ship was in there. It turned out to be a spaceship in the coordinate, either the latitude or the longitude, whatever one it was that they had the data on. He said it was just one of them. And it was right on where they said. Webbot was right on that. Russia and China, number 6. Teeter says, Russia and China have always had a very strange relationship. Even the news I see now indicates that continued weapons deals to allies, border clashes, and overpopulation will lead to hostilities. The West will become very unstable, which gives China the confidence to, and he puts in quotes, expand. They're building man-made islands recently, China, expanding, you could say. They're telling us to go away. And he said this is Russia and China, right? They've had a strange relationship. The West will become very unstable, which gives China the confidence to expand. Not only has China expanded, and he mentions Russia in here. Russia went into Crimea, Ukraine, didn't care about us one bit, didn't care what we had to say. Now they're in Syria dealing with the rebels, or the ISIS, or whatever the hell you want to call them. They're getting, as he says, we're becoming unstable. It gives them the confidence. They're becoming more confident to do things knowing the United States is falling. We don't care anymore. We're no longer the superpower in their eyes. They don't care. They're becoming more and more confident to expand and do things. Russia has taken over expansion, part of Crimea or whatever, Ukraine. China building out their South Sea area, clashing with our ally. You know, this is interesting. And he also said, someone asked him if China would ever send a man out into space. He said, I believe China, are pretty close to putting a man in orbit. It should not surprise you if they do that soon. By God, in October 2003, China put a man in orbit. 2 years after, actually almost closer to 3. Number 7 from John Teeters, a growing civil unrest. Quote, they will be, referring to who's the bad guy and the people you're talking about in our country that are against the citizens. They will be the ones arresting and holding people without due process. I was almost going to ask you, have you spent any time on YouTube watching videos, realizing you watch me? So yeah, you do. But do you watch videos on YouTube regarding the police state? The unbelievable things that the police departments across the country are doing. The whole holding people without due process and all that stuff. It's insane. Next. He said, Teeter also stated the following. The president or leader, he says, in 2005, I believe, tried desperately to be the next Lincoln and hold the country together, but many of the policies drove a larger wedge into the Bill of Rights. The president of 2009 was interested only in keeping his or her power base. Now, the interesting thing is, both this president and the previous president have driven a massive wedge in the Bill of Rights. Makes you wonder if the next president is really the one he's referring to of the he/she, and specifically made the he/she comment in reference to the next president that he was talking about from 2009. If by chance, timeline, whatever's changed, whatever, I don't know, and we finally have for the first time a female running for president who actually stands a very big chance of winning against Trump and Hillary and Republican, Democrat. They're 17th cousins, after all, from what I heard. Genealogy, right? Can you imagine her winning? I will just say it now. Well, first let me say this. If Hillary wins, first female ever president, that in itself is unbelievable. The second piece that's unbelievable is for anyone in the year 2000 or 2001 or previous, for God's sakes, to even insinuate in any way, shape, or form that there's going to be a female president. And because he wants to be politically correct in his speaking online, he refers to the next president after that one. Because see, notice how he says, the president or leader in 2005, I believe, tried desperately, blah, 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 blah. He didn't say he/she then. He just said the president or leader, referring to the one in 2005. But the next one after that, he says, the president in 2009 was interested only in keeping his/her power base. Why would you be politically correct when there would be no reason to do so, since there's never been a woman president? Matter of fact, it's absurd to even use that stupid line. Why don't you just put keeping his power base? You wouldn't have thrown anybody off. It would have made perfect sense because every damn president's been a he. So I'm looking at all this saying, and you mean to tell me, I understand the timeline's not the same, 2009 came and go, but the one right after that? The next election after that? Which, well, not technically the next president after that, I should say, 2016 now. There's a female who stands to potentially win. And again, even if the voting's rigged and they want her in there, she'll be in there. So, what else was there in here? Is there anything else? Nothing. Actually, that's it for now. So, I threw that in as kind of a little bonus. Because they kind of go, to me, when I think of Webbot and time travel, future, and so I always kind of think of things from both of them. But I just want to share that with you. Take it for what it is. Take care.